Hello, everyone. We have a very special program today, Back to School with OCF, the Orthodox Christian Fellowship. And now that students are going back to school, it's a great time to talk about it. How do we stay engaged? How do we bring the young people who are in college? How do we allow them to keep their faith and also reach out to those who may not be Orthodox Christians, who may be inspired by the witness and example of our young people? I want to introduce our two very special guests today. As Director of Ministries of the Orthodox Christian Fellowship, Christina Andresen works alongside college students as they grow in faith and as leaders on campus in the church and in the world. She is a graduate of Texas A&M University and Holy Cross Greek Orthodox School of Theology. In addition to OCF, she's involved in parish ministries as a founding member of the Sisterhood of St. Xenia and a member of Philoptochos. She has also been a contributing podcaster for Ancient Faith Ministries. She lives in Dallas, Texas, with her OCF sweetheart. I think we're going to learn a lot about this. They met on a real big trip, and they have 3 children. Yeah. We also have with us today Elias Andreson. He is the chairman of the Orthodox Christian Fellowship Student Leadership Board. He works with a board of 9 other student leaders to plan and implement all of OCF's ministries. He's currently a senior at Valparaiso University, pursuing a BA in music and a BS in mechanical engineering. I don't know how you put those two together. Wow. When not in class or doing homework, Elias enjoys playing his trumpet in a jazz ensemble, 3D printing Star Wars helmets, building Legos, playing guitar, and participating in his own OCF chapter. He is originally from Libertyville, Illinois, and plans to move back to the area upon graduation in May. 2 very special and unique individuals. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Okay, Christina, let me start with you. For those who may not be familiar with OCF, give us a brief description of what OCF does on both a national and a local level.
Sure. So, Orthodox Christian Fellowship is the assembly agency for college students. So we have been commissioned by the bishops of the U.S. to serve college students. And our hope is really to offer college students rich community in Christ, where we're inspiring them to live a lifelong love of God and neighbor. So we're really all about creating contexts where God can work in the lives of college students and where young people can figure out who they are in the process. And we do this through the programs and the communities that we're building, which starts at the local campus chapter, like Elias mentioned, a group like his friends at Valparaiso. And then we host retreats throughout the year. We have a big conference every December. We host a leadership conference every summer. We host pilgrimages and service trips. We have virtual ministry and media, and we're always looking for new opportunities, like I said, to really offer that rich community and inspire students to live in a way that's dedicated fully to Christ.
Okay. We hear many times that 6 in 10 young people, when they go to college, don't come back to church. So let's talk for a minute about young people who arrive at school. They're already Orthodox. What do you think are the major obstacles to that regular church attendance, that connection, that rope, that lifeline that has the faith connected to them?
I think some of the major obstacles are, there's a lot of different things. I think one of them is just the rigor of schoolwork. That it can get in the way, but I think students tend to prioritize it over church, which I don't think is necessary. I think I'm an example of you can pursue even multiple degrees and stay on top of your studies and go to church. But in addition to that, just like the school rigor, there's just like social pressures where if your friends aren't going to church, then why should you? People, like, there's no one telling you to go to church anymore. So it really falls on you to take that choice and go. But if it can be hard to do without a community that's going. So that's really where OCF fits in, to provide that community.
Sort of that community. I kid my kids many times. I text them GTC and they said, "Dad, what does that mean?" I said, "It means go to church." So if everyone would just text each other instead of the LOL GTC, maybe that might be just a little bit of an excitement to get them going. Christina,
I'll just add to
go ahead.
that, you know, one of my favorite myths to dispel is what that 6 out of 10 actually means. And I just think it's important for families with younger children to hear this and know this, because I think a lot of us think that 6 out of 10 means that these kids that have like really strong faith in Christ, they go off to college campuses, and college itself somehow has this like insidious, evil
The negative.
foundation that tears that away from them. But if you read carefully that study that was done that came up with the number 6 out of 10 young people leave the church during their college years, they actually found that the faith decision was actually made closer to the age of 15. So what college typically does is that it reveals shallow faith rather than it destroys strong faith. So not to say that there aren't people who, you know, hit really challenging times in college for the first time in their life, and that does rock their faith in some ways. But typically when you're seeing kids leave the church at that age, it has a lot more to do with the fact that their faith wasn't really strongly grounded. And then when they do lack that community, or someone telling them they have to go to church, or they get asked that hard question in class, that's what makes them start to drift away. So I just want to say that as an encouragement to parishes and families to know that what you're doing with your kids at a younger age are really ensuring that your kids are going to flourish when they do leave your home parishes and your homes to go to college.
Would you repeat what you said again about shallow faith, revealing shallow faith?
Sure. So the conclusion was that college reveals shallow faith rather than breaks down strong faith. So it's not that college itself is the destroyer of faith. It's that college is the time when what's already there gets revealed. So I think that's just important to keep in mind.
Very important. Very, very important. Yeah. Yes. Elias, let me come back to you. The parents ask all the time, how can their children stay connected to the faith in college? But how can their peers encourage them to prioritize faith? You hinted at it a little bit when you were talking before. Can you go into more detail for us?
Yeah, of course. So we hear all the term all the time, peer pressure. And peer pressure, we always associate with like kind of a negative connotation, like there's peer pressure to party and do all this other stuff. And peer pressure is effective at getting people to do things. So we just need to do positive peer pressure, where instead of, hey man, you're going to the party tonight, it's, hey man, you going to church tomorrow? I'll give you a ride. So at my school, we have a group text that every Saturday we'll just send in the text, hey, I'm driving to this church tomorrow, who's in? It really makes it easy. And then even if I notice like sometimes people won't respond in a group message, then reach out individually, hey, you wanna come? Like really it just takes peers to individually reach out to their fellow peers and give them the good peer pressure.
Okay. Christina, I'm going to come back to you. I'm one who believes that Orthodox Christianity is Orthodox Christianity. We may have the so-called jurisdictions and cultures, but as far as I know, we don't change the chalice. We don't change the faith. It's the same faith once delivered to the apostles. But let's talk a minute about, as the world of Orthodoxy expands out and begins this process of interjurisdictional work, how does OCF create and encourage a community of pan-Orthodoxy?
I'm so excited you're asking us this question. You know, until recently, with the formation of OVC and OIM, the new youth and young adult ministry agencies, OCF's really been the only agency that was doing this work. You know, all of the other agencies of the assembly are outward facing, IOCC, OCMC, you know, really like with a face towards serving outside the church. OCF's really been the only one that's like had everybody at one table to figure it out. And we've been doing that now since, you know, the 60s and really officially in our current formation since 2001. So, you know, we're still babies in Orthodox terms, but I do think we've learned a few things. And, you know, I think what's important is that we really invite everyone to the table as equals. No matter what your background is and whether you've been Orthodox your whole life, you've converted as a teenager or a young adult, you've come from a Russian background or a Greek or Arab, whatever, everyone is able to be a part of this organization on the same footing. That's really important to us. We celebrate culture. Our model is not to be Orthodox first in like the sense it is, but it isn't like in the sense where that means you have to whitewash away all of the beautiful cultural expressions that we have. So we try to celebrate culture. That means we dance a lot. We do everybody's dances. We teach each other's dances. We share food when we can. We go to each other's festivals. And, we really do celebrate the diversity of our cultures without letting it become an idol or a barrier to faith. We take very seriously at our OCF events using English almost exclusively in the services and doing a variety of liturgical styles, because I've learned, at least in my experience, that you can't go wrong with English when you have a diverse group. But where you might go wrong and you wouldn't have caught that you went wrong was that you only do a certain kind of music. And that just doesn't feel at home for some people because they've grown up with only one tradition. So we're pretty big sticklers at our events that standard OCF retreat, even if it's only 3 days long, is at least going to have one Slavic style sung akathis and one Greek paraklesis, or Greek style, Byzantine style paraklesis. We switch off. We make sure all of our big conferences have choirs who can sing both styles. We really do like try to celebrate the different places and experiences of the church that are out there. And then at our Leadership Institute, when we're training leaders, we really do emphasize naming the assumptions that we have about each other, naming our assumptions about the history of Orthodoxy in this country, and really trying to learn how to approach each other with a little more humility and a little more love and a little less bravado about or negative narratives about each other, because those are the people who I think are going to have a lot of influence, not just in their OCFs, but in what our church looks like when they all become parish council members and priests and bishops one day. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Elias, I'm going to come back to you. I hear sometimes in some Orthodox circles that we need to sort of circle the wagons and protect ourselves. And we know that we live now in a world that, what was wrong is now right, what was right is now wrong. Things are changing drastically. And I know there's a tendency to circle the wagons and not let anyone in. But I don't think that is good for the future. The best way to grow Orthodoxy is to give it away, to share it with other people. So I want to talk with you, Elias, about those ages 18, 22. They're formative years for everyone. Students get to campuses nationwide. They're exploring their adulthood. How can OCF viewers and users use this ministry for evangelism? Do you see maybe even converts that come to the chapters nationwide?
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. I'll say from my experience on campus, how I've been able to use my faith in OCF for evangelism. Just so one of the things I do is I don't hide my faith like with my friends. They know I'm Orthodox. So, and I don't force it on them or anything, but they just know I'm Orthodox. And what that does is when someone has a question, they're like, "Oh, Elias, you're Orthodox. What can you tell me about this?" And actually, I was at a social gathering earlier this semester, and one of the kids there who was in some music classes with me, he asked me, he's like, "Hey, Elias, you're Orthodox, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, is there a church around here you go to? I'm like, "Yeah, there's a couple churches around here we go to." I was like, "Yeah, well, I'm thinking about converting. Like, I heard about Orthodoxy on like a YouTube video, and I just want to learn more. I got this book." So I'm like, "Yeah." So then we just had a nice long conversation. Now he's come to some OCF meetings. Education is one of our 4 pillars of OCF. So we really try to teach about the faith because there's always more to learn. But especially some of that baseline stuff, we want people to come. And yeah, I'll say the ages 18 to 25, people really are exploring their faith because it's the first time when nothing's forced on you, and you can think about it freely. And then another kind of program that OCF is exploring to really hit home the evangelism is a campus ministry program, which Christina can talk a little bit more about.
Yes, so we actually just started our campus missionary initiative with the hire of our first missionary for Texas A&M University, which you might have heard in my bio.
Yes.
That's my alma mater, so it's a little bit of a biased decision where we started, but I'm excited that we have this year sort of a soft pilot with our first missionary who's going to be serving both the current Orthodox students as well as then being able to do outreach for the campus. I don't know if Elias has experienced this in his area of the country, but in many areas right now, what I'm seeing at the national level is we're getting droves of young people coming to the church, and we're not really doing anything. We're just kind of existing. And so I'm really excited that we're going to be making an intentional effort not only to reach out to campuses and bring the voice of the Orthodox Church and the gospel of Jesus Christ to those campuses, but that we're going to have someone there to disciple people into the church, to actually guide them and help them learn what it looks like to live a normal Orthodox life alongside a parish community. So right now we're at Texas A&M. God willing, we will be adding a couple other campuses starting next summer with A&M. And then, that this is really going to be the new direction of OCF. We've been doing for this last 20 years, like I said, at the national level, really our big influence has been with our national programs. And the local chapters get volunteer attention from whoever the local community is. And thanks be to God for the volunteers who've been so dedicated to our students for so long. But Father Chris, parish priests are very busy. And when we survey them, the most dedicated of them say they probably spend about 5 hours a month with college, specifically with OCF, specifically on college students. And 5 hours a month, if this really is the most formative time when you're asking the most questions and you're questioning, potentially questioning everything that you've had as a kid, or questioning whether you want to become Orthodox, is just not enough. 5 hours is not enough. And so our campus missionary initiative is really striving to turn the tide, both for our students who leave their Orthodox homes and for those students who are seeking answers to the big questions in life.
Okay, so you're talking about being purposefully Orthodox Christian, something that actually has action behind it, not just words and not just nice pictures of us standing there looking great. But you're talking about on the ground involvement. And I want to talk about local parishes. How can the local parish actually support? How can we support Orthodox Christian students?
Yeah. Elias, you want to say what are the things that your local parishes have done that have made you feel supported as a young Orthodox Christian?
Yeah, so I feel very supportive. So we have 2 parishes near us that are pretty involved. We have an OCA church and a Greek church. And so my freshman year, I would get rides to the Greek church. The priest's son would just pick us up and take us to church. So offering rides to students, going to their campuses to pick them up and taking them to church and taking them back, even if that is some extra driving. You're a freshman without a car, senior without a car, you need that support. So taking them to church, and when they're at church, having someone sit with them. Like it's always awkward to sit alone. So having someone to sit with them in the pews, but also giving them opportunities to partake in the ministry of the church, whether it's a Sunday school teacher, a member of the choir, altar boy. I do the latter 2. I sing in the choir at the OCA church, but I'll be an altar boy at the Greek church. All of that stuff at their food festivals, inviting them and giving them food, but also giving them a place to volunteer at the festival. Mm-hmm. That's some stuff, but also our priests, real quick, our priests will come to campus and do dorm room blessings, which is really getting dirty in the dorms, freshman dorms. They're not pretty. They're old, they're dark, but it'll come in and bless it for us. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I love that. I like that you mentioned kind of the two-way street. You want to be welcoming and open, as a parish when students come to you, but it means a lot when the parish shows up on the campus too. Whether that's through the priest or, eventually a campus missionary. I think that's really important.
Well, Christina and Elias, we could talk with you all night here, but we have to end this. And Christina, I'll give you one final question, and I'll summate. I'll give a little bit of a summary. Christina, what happens when a college doesn't have an OCF chapter? What is the process of starting one? And if it isn't possible, what do you recommend for students to do when they're at that particular school and there's no way to be connected?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with saying the beginning of this answer is actually one other thing that parishes can and should do to support their college students. Every spring, you should tell us who is graduating from your parish, how we can get in touch with them, an email or a phone number, and what school they are going to. Something I don't know that a lot of people realize is that due to the changes in privacy laws, universities used to give you, like, if they had checked that Orthodox box, they would give you a list if you asked for it as a student leader or as a chaplain of who the Orthodox students are. They do almost nowhere is that possible anymore. So if we don't know where your students are, it is really tough for us to help make sure they're connected. So every spring around April, from April till about through the summer and July, we are asking parishes, we're asking camps to tell us who graduated from your parish this year, where are they going to school, how can we get in touch with them? So important. We don't just to assure people that we don't share that information with anyone outside of our OCF network, but if we have their name and their school, we can make sure that the local parish community knows they're coming that way. The local student leader knows.
Very important. Very, very important. Yep.
And then that leads me to your question is, if they're going somewhere where there is not an OCF chapter, our regional student leader, so someone on Elias's board, will personally call them and say, hey, you are at a school where there's not an OCF chapter. I'm your regional leader. We have two. If you want to get a chapter started, I'm here to help you. And if we know about 4 other students, we might email them all together and say, you 4 all go to school together. Let me help you start a chapter. So we try to make it as easy as possible. And then if you're at a place where there's maybe not going to be an OCF chapter, just a smaller school, not a large Orthodox population, you are already, if we know about you, connected to at least one other Orthodox student, to your regional leader, who's going to make sure you get invited to a regional retreat, who's going to make sure you get invited to college conference. And then we also started during the pandemic, actually, and have continued a program called small groups. We do offer virtual small groups. So it's a group of about 6 to 8 students, all women or all men, led by a trained facilitator who all of them are former student leadership board members. Like Elias can next year be trained to be a facilitator for a small group. And they meet once a week for 10 weeks across the semester. So that's another opportunity we have for like a little bit more consistent interaction if you are somewhere where there is not an OCF chapter, where you don't feel like or you just need extra. Maybe you just need more than what your OCF chapter is able to offer you. So signups for that for spring semester of small groups will happen in December, January, and then they'll start in mid-January and run through the spring semester. And our fall ones are already going right now.
Now, do you still do the real break? Because you and I, Christina, were on a real break trip a long time ago in Istanbul.
Yes.
You still do the real break trips?
We do still do real break trips. I think the pandemic changed that a little bit for us. So we are not going as many places right now as we have in the past. I will share that we have a pilgrimage and a service trip planned for this March. The pilgrimage trip is a Northern California pilgrimage. So we stay at a monastery. We go to Fort Ross, which has one of the oldest Orthodox churches in the contiguous United States. We see St. John Maximovich, St. John San Francisco. They get to serve alongside the nuns at Holy Assumption Alliance, Holy Assumption Monastery. I'm trying to remember the schedule off the top of my head. And then our service trip this year will again be partnering with a mission parish in Puerto Rico. So we'll be sending a service group to Puerto Rico to help both the parish community there, as well as another non-Orthodox organization that the church partners with. And Elias went on that trip last year, so he probably could say a little bit more about it.
It was amazing. It's fabulous.
Yeah. And then we are planning an overseas pilgrimage for May, but it's still a secret. I'm not going to tell you where we're going.
Well, when you come to Northern California, that's where I am now for the remainder of this year.
Okay.
I'm the interim pastor at St. Nicholas in San Jose, California.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm very close to where the Church of St. John Maximovich is. And we'd be happy to host your group here for a night, for a day, whatever. Okay, so we're here for you.
Okay, I will let Alexis know, our student leader planning it.
Yeah, there's a lot that you've given us today. And I know that OCF Sunday is this Sunday, declared in parishes around the nation. And I hope and pray that people will, if they don't do something this Sunday, it will be sort of the kickoff for other Sundays in the course of the year. Pastor Trey, do what you need to do. Reach out to the college students. Encourage your priests to reach out, especially to young people on campuses. And give us your website, please. Could you do that?
Sure. www.ocf.net.
Okay. May God continue to bless both of you, Christina and Elias, and everyone at OCF. OCN, the Orthodox Christian Network, an affiliate agency of the Assembly of Canonical Bishops, is here for you as a footstool to carry your message, as we say many times, allowing the wings of the angels to carry the message of God to the hearts of God's people. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.